first, we're going to find out where you stand on members of the Occupy movement going into schools to give classes in how to change the world, I guess. Because anti-capitalist, anti-greed campaigners who've moved, or rather who've camped around the country, are launching an outreach programme to address pupils as part of their citizenship classes. Citizenship classes have been compulsory for 11 to 16-year-olds since 2002 and aim to teach young people how to become active, useful members of society. It is the fastest growing subject at GCSE, with 100,000 students taking a qualification in it last year, which is almost twice as many as did media studies. That's interesting. Bishop Stortford High School in Hertfordshire was the first in England to invite someone from Occupy to give their students a talk. And to ensure balance, citizenship teacher Simon Etheridge said other speakers with very different views would also have an opportunity to address students. The school wants pupils to think critically and engage with issues that are important to them. And as you know, I'm all for helping kids learn to make their own minds up about politics and encouraging them to challenge inequality and corporate greed. But are the Occupy protesters the best people to do this? Because last Wednesday, a High Court judge, Mr. Justice Lindblom, called the St Paul's camp a public nuisance. He gave the local authorities permission to evict protesters who have until Friday to clear out. Occupy camps in Bristol, Manchester and Bath have already been dismantled. And some claim St Paul's has been abused by protesters. The cathedral vandalised, graffiti, even human faeces. I mean, some of the stories I've read, a convicted sex offender has been arrested there. Others claim illegal drugs are used on site. Difficult to know how much of it is true, but we do have Jamie Kelsey-Fry with us, who is from Occupy movement, and you are going to Bishop Stortford School, is that right?
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And I'm proud that I come from the Occupy movement camp, and we're really looking forward to going to the school.
Okay, what are you going to tell the students when you get there?
Well, I'm really glad you reminded the audience about citizenship. The key things in citizenship is critical thinking and inquiry, advocacy and representation, and taking informed and responsible action. It's a fantastic subject.
That's as laid down in the syllabus. That's what it's about.
The curriculum, literally, yeah. So the Occupy movement itself, if we're going to take on economic injustice, then we have to learn about all the issues involved in it, and it's very complicated. You have to see things from different points of view. And so that's what we've been doing in all these camps. There's 47 still across the UK, 1,700 across the world. And citizenship is exactly the same as what Occupy is doing, in the sense that you choose the issues that are important to you, and you use critical thinking to look into it deeply and understand it clearly, and then you learn to speak up for what you believe in, and then you learn to take responsible action, which is the last part of the curriculum. We believe we're taking responsible action.
Some people may be worried that this is overt politicisation of young people.
Well, in a sense, that would be illegal if I was going to go in and tell them what they should be thinking. What I'm going in there is to help facilitate their critical thinking skills. It's up to young people to choose the issues that they're most concerned about.
And you've been at the Occupy camp at St Paul's since it started, is that right?
Yeah, yes, I live quite near there, but I've been there pretty much every day since October the 15th, yeah.
And can I ask, what do you do for a living?
I'm a contributing editor for the New Internationalist magazine, but I was a teacher for 23 years.
Okay, so you're used to teaching people?
I love teaching, actually. I absolutely love it, yeah.
Okay.
I think it's one of the most important jobs in the country.
Well, hey, I'm not going to argue with that. Now, I'm going to go down the panel. I'm going to take some calls. I want you to jump in as and when, as you feel fit here, Jamie.
Very happy.
Okay, Hardy, what do you think? Radicalising young people, or actually giving them an opportunity to...
As a parent, I'd be really concerned if, corrupt, law-breaking, politically insensitive, single-issue people were allowed into my child's school to talk to them. So I'm really happy that members of Parliament aren't being allowed to do this. I would rather have people impassioned from a point of view I may not necessarily agree with, and I'm not saying I agree or disagree with Occupy, but I think we need to break the process from the politics. Too many people sign up to something without thinking the process through. Okay, we're in the state we're in because nobody stopped to question what has happened in our society and our so-called civilization over the last 30 years. Okay, we used to have people that were impassioned by politics. How many people went on the march against the war in Iraq?
That was widely said to be about 1 million, wasn't it? Yeah.
And how much attention was paid to that by our politicians? Zilch. Okay? So it clearly doesn't matter if we express ourselves democratically to our elected officials, So surely we should teach the process. Occupy London, Occupy the movement is important, even if you disagree with it.
It may be important, but should it form part of core education?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely, because it's not, like I say, if all you go in and you cannot tell people what to think, you can teach them the process. And that's important.
Josie, would you like to have had something like that when you were at school?
Yeah, I think I would, but I got to say, I was driving past College Green about a month ago, and I said to my brother, in Bristol, where they were all camped up, and I said to my brother, what are they protesting for? And me and my brother didn't have a clue, because they need to make it more clear about what they are protesting for, because half the people, I just see all these people camped out in College Green, and my brother said...
Maybe if you had someone like Jamie going into your school back in the day, you would have felt empowered perhaps to go up to them and ask them what they were doing.
Well, yeah, but I don't... I've got to
Did you
say...
go and ask them?
No, I didn't, but I don't think they make their messages very clear about what they're protesting for.
That was, I mean, to be fair, Jamie, that was one of the criticisms of the Occupy movement. And when I've been down to St Paul's, you've got banners up there about Palestine.
Yeah.
You know, it's, you know, I left...
That's a very good point, actually. We think that this movement, and bear in mind, it's global and it's wired. That's never happened before. That we've got an umbrella cause, so it's not a single issue campaign, which is what you're pointing out. We're just simply asking questions about economic justice, whether we can have a fairer system for all. And underneath that comes issues like what's happening in Palestine. Issues like in China, people are being paid 23p to make those toys for the
26p, let's be fair.
Okay, sorry.
I mean, 3p makes a difference. Yeah.
But issues like what's happening in the welfare cuts. The fact is that the bankers have been bailed out. The fact is that bonuses are enormous. I'm embarrassed to be a member of a country where the distance between the super rich and the rest of us is so huge. This is a modern world. We should be growing up about this. An economic system based on infinite growth, but which relies on finite resources, is embarrassing.
Right.
We should grow up right here, right now, and be responsible for everyone, not allow this to continue. We have to challenge things. That's all that these young people on Friday are going to be doing.
Things, but I've seen and plenty of young people on demonstrations challenging things. Do we need to actually formalise this by putting people into the classroom?
Yeah, I mean, just the very arguments that you've said there should be being discussed in schools. Absolutely, there's only one answer to that, and that's yes. As long as it's part of a balanced, I don't like to use the word curriculum, as long as there are lots of other people coming into the school to talk about lots of other things as well. And I suppose depending on the age, you want to be talking to an age group where they can have a really meaningful debate about those things. But if you ask any university admissions people what the criteria now on which they judge one kid from another, whether they're going to offer them a place at university, it isn't just about exam grades. They have begun to realise they want a rounded youngster who has opinions and who's going to contribute something to the life of the university and have debating societies and actually go out into the world as a rounded human being. And it's only by taking on board those sort of arguments and discussing them yourself, don't have to agree with them, that we will have rounded human beings and the next generation actually might have some hope being fairer.
Do you think, Jamie, would we like to see rabidly pro-hunting people going in and discussing the joys of tearing foxes and hunt sabs going in? Do we want to take... I mean, is that where
a young person? That's fantastic. That would be fantastic. And you've got to. I'm very glad you brought up citizenship. The fact is, it has been statutory up to now, but it looks very likely that this government, the coalition government, is going to stop it being statutory. You'll find if you speak
because there is Jamie.
And why would they be stopping it from being statutory?
Some people feel perhaps that the education agenda has been allowed to go quite liberal, and what we need to do, and I know Gove certainly thinks this, is that we really need to return and do things like Latin and sums and get things traditional, so our children leave school able to read and write and get jobs and become good drones.
Well, Anne's answered your question, because the fact is, Anne's absolutely right. What universities are saying is, it's a disaster at the moment. They have teenagers coming into university who have no critical thinking skills themselves. It's almost like the same idea of battery chickens. They have to tick the boxes to get good grades in the GCSEs, so they don't think for themselves. There's no critical thinking. One of the universities that invited us in, the teacher is teaching media for degree, and she said, you've got to come in, because we've got teenagers coming from schools who haven't got a clue about politics. Citizenship is about political literacy and political agency. Learning about politics and doing politics.
I tell you what,
it's also economic literacy. Kids have to have this now more than ever. It's outrageous that they don't.
Any school that gets you going in, Jamie, I think is probably very lucky. You're extremely articulate and very passionate, and it comes across loud and clear. And I'm thinking I'm ready for a lesson, but we've got to go to the phones and find out who's on the line. Kirsty.
We have Edward on line 1.
Edward, good morning.
Good morning, all of you.
Good morning. So, do you like what you're hearing?
All of you. You have covered a lot of points, but as I say, I think it's important to tell children or young people that they do have the right to process protest, but with responsibility and balance and sort of organisation. You could also go into the historical sort of context of the Jarrow miners. It's important to engage the children to get them discussing. And you do that in most educational things anyway. Well, you should be.
Well, it sounds like there are gaps out there. It sounds like there are gaps. Would you, I mean, how much of this is selling the of what you do when you go into class will be selling Occupy, and how much of it will be reflecting on Jarrow marches and the wider political spectrum?
Okay, absolutely crucial question. Now, the Jarrow marches or the matchstick girls, you remember the Fosse girls, all those stories will get taught in the course of their citizenship subject. Okay, so they learn about Martin Luther King and Gandhi and all the different forms of taking informed and responsible action. We're not going to go in there and say, right, what we want you lot to do is go outside, occupy a bank, set up a load of tents.
What a shame.
Well, no, obviously we're not going to do that. What we are going to do is teach them critical thinking and inquiry, as we know, but also the way we operate in Occupy. And so remember, there's 1,700 camps around the world, okay? One thing that we've all got in common, as well as challenging economic injustice, is the way we come to decisions. Now, I don't know how many of your viewers have actually seen us doing this. Do you know this, Matthew? The jazz hands? Okay, so we have what's called people's assemblies. And that means that it's the most expedient way that everyone's voice can be heard fairly and equally. So if you audience, if you agree with what I'm saying at the moment, show your jazz hands. All right. Revolution. That's fantastic. Okay, now if you disagree, you go like this. Now, what I'm saying is in the school, I'm not going to teach them to break windows and set up tents, but we are going to have a people's assembly with the young people. Now, lots of young people have been coming down to our camps, and they are astonished.
I'm going to jump in because it's very important that ordinary people get a say, and that's what we can do here on the show. Now, Edward, thank you. Let's take one more.
Okay, we have Philippa online too.
Philippa, good morning.
Good morning.
Any concerns, Philippa?
No, not really, only for the future, for our young people. And I really believe that anything we can do to make them join in their future, to be proactive in the future and question what's happening to them and what's happening to all of us. We really do need all of you people in that studio. By virtue of the fact that you're in that studio, are successful, you know where you're going. That's not true for our teenagers. They have.
I'll be honest, I don't think it's really true for our audience, but you carry on, Philippa. Sorry, audience. Forgive me. Hardy, I know you wanted to get in very quickly.
I just think the point is that free market is about depoliticization. There's no more politics anymore. It's about managing the situation rather than having polemic debate about things. And what Occupy does is it re-engenders actually debating things anymore. Look at America. We're the same in Britain. In what other scenario could the Liberal Democrats and the Conservatives come together? It's you know, they're chief executives of the economy. They're not leaders anymore. You know, this is the problem. We have no politics left.
Yes. Okay. Thank you very much for all the calls on that. Apologies to the audience. I know they wanted again. I've got to take a break, but I have to say, hand on heart, Jamie, you did a cracking job there. Well done, sir. Well done. 14 Here and Now fan. That's all you need to know, really. After the ads, we're discussing gastric bans on demand at present.